All right, all right. Welcome back to another day in paradise. This is episode 5 on March 11th. Once again, we got a lot of interesting developments. Many of them are just continuations of previous news, but worthy of covering nonetheless. The biggest new news worth discussing is the situation with Twitter. Once again, the app is Twitter. I will call it X when Elon Musk can properly gender his daughter. Those are the rules. So Twitter got majorly cyber attacked yesterday, and Elon goes like on the news and he's crying about how like, oh, this was such a powerful attack. It had to have been like a major network or a foreign adversary, and he seriously makes the bold claim that he thinks Ukraine is involved. Right, so he just, without evidence, says on the news during an interview that the majority of the activity was coming from a Ukrainian IP. I do not believe you whatsoever. I don't believe you. For one, the people announced who did it to you. It was anonymous. You would have known this if you looked at your website because it had their banner up the entire time. Let's take a gander and see if I can find it. Oh, my typing has gotten so much worse. Oh, no. All right, let's see if I can get an image of... Okay, so this... Okay, I guess this has been taken down. Yeah, so long story short, it was people claiming to be anonymous. They've kind of reemerged. They were very big in the Occupy Wall Street era and immediately following. It's mostly like an online collective. The whole purpose is that you're not intended to know any one person or not. Yeah, they're not quite a fan of the richest man on earth hijacking our government. And so they sent a message. Let's see if I can actually get this to open fully. Here we go. Anonymous Operation Dreadnought. We are here to fight against the fascism that has taken root in America. The Republican Party, MAGA, Trump, and Musk are imbeciles who are drunk on power and get off on trampling down others. The American people are suffering for it. The world is suffering for it. These are some of the worst people on the planet, hell-bent on destroying it and everyone on it. They lack morals, empathy, common decency, and any sense that we are a community. They are not kings. They do not speak for the people. They will be removed. And then we have the classic, we are anonymous, we are legion, we do not forgive, we do not forget. Expect us. It's kind of interesting to see the comeback going around. My opinions on whether this is legitimate is kind of mixed. So ever since their prime kind of fell apart a decade ago, there have been a fair few splinter groups that continue to operate, but it seems like it's a relatively small collective. So if this is genuinely published by, like the hack was genuinely done by an anonymous affiliate, again, there are no leaders in Anonymous. It's just a bunch of dudes working together to do hacktivism. So the extent of organization is very inconsistent cell to cell. It's one of those to where in the current state, I'm not confident Anonymous is strong enough to do this, but at the same time, Twitter is such a technical nightmare that for all we know, it was not very hard to do at all. Is it possible that this was a foreign actor? I suppose. I mean, it would surely be an interesting false flag for something like a Russia or a North Korea to pose as anonymous and then to have their have their hacks and their DDoSing coming from Ukrainian IP addresses on purpose is kind of like a false flag. That's something I could see being done. I just don't think it's likely. I think that it's far more likely that Twitter just has no cybersecurity infrastructure anymore after he fired all the people, and that they were actually quite easy to fuck with. And this was just one of those times where they got fucked with pretty bad. The website was basically incapacitated for much of the afternoon yesterday in the United States. So, good luck with that, Elon. Shocker, but when you piss off a lot of people, you tend to make a lot of enemies. Best of luck to you. On to other news. Other big one is just more nonsense with the stocks and the tariff situation. Trump keeps like saying all this extra weird shit like, oh, we're gonna fight back with, yeah, like Trump has instructed to raise Canadian tariffs on aluminum and steel to 50%. Instructed who? Under what means? Are you gonna follow through on this one? What are we doing? The stock market is in a full free fall, which, fuck them. Like, I'm so spiteful about stocks at this point. Like, you bastards deserve to lose as much money as you can. Unfortunately, at this stage, I'm convinced the entire Trump administration is just a last-minute pump and dump. He knows he's going to be on the outs soon. He knows his health is fading. So he and his cronies are going to try to rape the economy as much as they can, take as much out of it, and then it'll be, in the hands of maybe a couple dozen people, and then the oligopoly will be complete. We are not a democracy. This is a kleptocracy leaning towards oligopoly. Like, it is so blatant and so not subtle what is being done. There is no strategic reason why you would want to do this much back and forth nonsense and fuck with the economy this much unless you were trying to sabotage on purpose. And assuming they are, doing insider trading and whatnot, where like Trump intentionally fucks up one industry and then he has all of his cronies go buy in when the stock drops on that one and then he'll cancel it and then it'll go back up. I guess if your goal is to run the economy like a pump and dump, this would be an efficient way to do it. I'll give you credit for that one. That's one of those things. Republicans are the devil. They are... Republican voters are a truly ignorant and foolish people leaning towards hatred. I don't think they're not all bad people, but the Republican establishment is a death cult bent on the destruction of America. There's no moving past this. And so if you are seriously still thinking that this administration is being done in good faith, even in Republican principles, boy, do I have a bridge to sell you. This is officially the era of the scam. Everything is a scam now. And what do you know? Elon and his Doge, the organization he technically doesn't run but ostensibly runs because laws don't matter anymore. He goes after all these different agencies that would be investigating him and his cronies. Isn't that funny how all of these consumer rights and protections organizations are the ones being like audited very heavily? He tries to make Twitter be the everything app, where he wants to make it a payment processor, and then he starts going after any organization that might investigate him for this. Funny how that works. This is the era of the scam. This is the new United States. I mean, sure, scams always existed and they always will exist, but we are really speed running this. How did this happen? Like, are right-wingers so desperate for their simple, easy world where they don't have to think about nuance that they're willing to let the United States fall into full-blown mafia behavior? Next up, Donald Trump is going to be out here like, oh, Canada, it'd be a real shame if you put counter tariffs. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to your legs at the meeting of this baseball bat. Like, what are we doing? Let's see what else we have here. Alex Jones says InfoWars reporter Jamie White was fatally shot near Texas home. If Alex Jones said anything, it's probably wrong. It's probably safe to say the dude was indeed killed. The question is why? Okay, I don't believe it was targeted. He was shot by a person or persons trying to break into his car for the second time. Tragic accident, but we haven't heard much else. I hope whoever took his life is caught and brought to justice. Yeah, so this is one of those, I don't think this is a fuck around and find out situation where he finally got for being associated with InfoWars. I think he, just robbery gone wrong kind of situation. How much you want to bet Alex Jones is going to spin this into like the deep state assassinated his men and they're coming for him and they're going to, the children, they're destroying the children. Excuse you, I'm not working right now. Please don't text me. Let's see what else. Oh my god. Okay, so this is one of those funny ones. This is news to me. I don't talk about it too much on the channel, but I technically am still a student pilot. My license hasn't expired. It's something that I wanted to get into, but the prices are just too much, and the system is very much rigged against you unless you're signing like a slave contract with one of these airlines. I just don't have the money to continue it or the willpower at this point. But it means that I'm still very invested in aviation and stuff like that. Southwest is one of those airlines to where they are truly they are dying. They are cooked. For those of you not familiar, Southwest is one of the major low cost airlines in the United States. Their whole gimmick is that they're kind of like an a la carte system where they run exclusively short to mid range Boeing aircraft. So all 737 these days. Helps with the airline having a consistent contract. They can have the same type ratings, the same training procedures. So anybody in the organization all can fly the same kind of plane. It can make it very efficient that way. Yeah, there'll be differences in sizes, but most of that kind of training differentiated is not a whole lot of a difference. So it's very efficient from an internal management system. But they run their company like horseshit. I'm sure some of you remember a few years back there were major issues during the holidays where Southwest computers are so old and so not like up to date that their shit just doesn't run well and it crashes all the time. Another one of those fun things that most people don't know. I mean, you might if you're in the politics space, because even if you're not like aviation savvy, you've likely heard of this. The main reason why aviation sucks these days, especially in the United States, is because the overwhelming majority of profits and revenue from airlines goes into stock buybacks. They're basically running their company like a pump and dump too. They've been doing it for a while. So their insistence on maintaining constant returns over and over again makes it to where they refuse to do anything that wouldn't suck. So any way that they can nickel and dime you, the better. And so when you get a Southwest ticket, you basically have no control over the flight experience. It is basically just taking the bus, but in a plane. You don't really get to pick your seats unless it's extra. Baggage is, like add-ons. It's very generic. And so like if you're like a small business or you like travel a lot and you just hop between a couple small airports, you can get tickets from Southwest pretty cheap if you're not being stingy about it. And you just want to one way to the other way, no first class, maybe an hour, 2 hour flight, get the job done. For that purpose, Southwest can be very useful. But anything beyond that, they just suck. They're terrible. And they used to be regarded as very well. So it's very disappointing to see that they insist on just sucking. Always. And the part that's really funny is so most of the Boeing controversy is overplayed media hype. There are legitimate issues with the Boeing Corporation, and we can definitely get into that another day. But by and by, Boeing is not like dramatically more unsafe than the other competitors. There are so many safety nets in place internationally to make it to where airline travel is safe. Yeah, we've had a lot of infamous incidents recently, but almost all of those have to do with just sheer lack of funding to air traffic controllers and sheer lack of funding to making sure there's enough like staff working. That's a huge issue. But if these planes weren't safe, you would see Europe ban them first. EASA, that's their version of the FAA. Effectively, it's like an international European Union version of what the FAA does. So until EASA removes them, assume that they're still mostly safe. But being a company where their entire gimmick is running exclusively 737s isn't a great look when the company you're getting that from is marred in constant controversy because of said specific aircraft. So I imagine they're not really happy about the current turn of events. What else we got for today? Oh, I'm not sure if I'll see it in this listing. I imagine it's somewhere in here. The situation with the student, the Palestinian student, who is being deported for speaking out against Israel. Whatever happened to free speech? I thought you guys cared about that. Isn't it funny how your special ally, who's very special and we constantly have to bend the knee to, when they want people kicked out of the country and deported, we just do it for them. Not a huge fan. Anybody who is new mini rant. I've been following the Israel-Palestine conflict for a long time now. And so much harm was done by the, like, what would you even call this faction? Deranged online left. I need to come up with a better term for it. The kind of online lefties to where they are so brain poisoned and insistent upon treating leftism and progressivism as a social circle rather than as an actual political force, that they will engage in behaviors that are basically guaranteeing a loss. Any person who was pro-Palestinian, who did not vote for Kamala Harris in the United States, gave us a worse situation. Yeah, Donald Trump and his cronies ostensibly stole the election with all of their voter disenfranchisement. That's a thing. But you could have still tried. Anybody who insisted, oh, well, Kamala Harris is bad on Gaza. Kamala Harris is bad. Yeah, duh. It's the United States government. Duh. It can always be worse. And it is worse. No matter what the situation was with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and their horrible, atrocious backing of a genocidal regime, at no point do I think that they would have genuinely gone through with deporting people for supporting Gaza. Crazy. Of course this was going to happen. Trump said it was going to happen. He said that he was going to do this months prior to the election. Were you guys not paying attention? How many of you are actually just controlled opposition? How many of you are receiving a paycheck just to stir the shit and to intentionally sabotage movements? I'm talking like... A lot of these people are often tankies, but like not necessarily. It's a very weird situation where they like... There's like a niche clique to where their main issue is just the Israel-Palestine situation. They don't really seem much focused on anything else. And a lot of their reactions are sussy. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're doing this as another segment. This is an extended rant. So one of the communities that I follow begrudgingly at this point, it's getting kind of out of hand, is, let's see if it's even available, is the subreddit Israel Exposed. Okay, I guess I gotta log in to see it. Alright, hopefully this does not get my ass banned, because some of the shit on here is yikes. So this is basically the dedicated subreddit for posting about Israeli war crimes. And shocker, it's not super hard to find, because their soldiers post about it on social media, and then people re-upload it. There is a contingent of the pro-Palestine, anti-Israel movement that is, let's be real, just full-blown anti-Semitic. Some of the shit on here is really, really yikes. One of the major issues with this current Israel-Palestine controversy is the fact that Israel has made it a concerted effort to equate the Jewish people with the Israeli state. And this is not the same. They are not the same. Yeah, Israel is primarily comprised of Jewish people, and they make a lot of stances about being the only safe place for Jewish people. But fundamentally speaking, they are a nation. They are a state. Okay? That's not the same as people. So when we are fighting against Israel, their propaganda, and calling out their genocide, we should not be using their playbook. Jews and Israelis are not synonymous. They're often associated, but it's not enough to be the same that it is worthy of some of the really strange behavior on this subreddit. Most of the time it's fine, but then you'll just see some to where it's like, the comments are incredibly yikes. Yeah, so like something like this. Like, this is weird from both angles. One, we have a U.S. senator who has the Israeli flag prominent in the back. That's weird. The American, I hate to even use the term, but like deep state types, like decades long lobbyists, decades long career politicians, and their weird fetishization with Israel is really, really yikes. And shocker, when you prominently display a foreign nation's flag in your office as a United States senator, you're going to start to spawn a lot of anti Semitic conspiracy theories. How about you don't? You could just not do that. You don't have to do this. You could be a little bit less weird about it. But at the same time, I'm incredibly suspicious of people who make these kind of posts because this is a dog whistle. Again, I've been in enough political movements over my time. I've been in far more spaces than you'd anticipate. I know what a dog whistle looks like. This is it. This is touting a conspiracy theory without explicitly saying it. Because when somebody sees something like this, what is the first thing that comes to their mind? Jews control the government. Like your classic anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. And so there is legitimate concerns that groups like AIPAC have way too much control and power over the American government. But remember, Israel is ostensibly just a roided up U.S. military base. Right, without United States aid, Israel is nothing. So they themselves have a vested interest in trying to ingrain themselves in American politics as much as possible. So it's not that like one of them has any more or less control over another. Both factions, like the pro-Israelis in the United States and the Israelis who are pro-American cooperation, are incentivized to work together because they share common interests. Mostly killing brown people, but they share common interests politically. But then when you have, these administrations in the U.S., like, just full-blown backing genocide, again, do any research on genocide. What is happening in Gaza fits every single international description of a genocide. It's not even close. And it spawns these kind of conspiracies, and then we have people who are righteously angry, but deeply irrational. Just because you are on the right side of this topic does not mean the reasons that you are right here are founded. So you can be against the genocide in Gaza, but your motivations be explicitly anti-Semitic. And you do see that a fair bit in the subreddit. It's often kind of covert anti-Semitism, like something like this, where it comes off as suspicious. It might be innocuous, but it might not. That's the point of a dog whistle. If the person is trying to use it as a dog whistle, the people who are here to listen to that message heard the message loud and clear. But other people who aren't actually paying attention to it are just going to see it as, anti-Israeli. Not really get the picture. It's this, like, vile radicalization spiral to where as things get worse in Gaza, it drives people towards more and more extreme positions. And as those positions get more and more extreme, the ideologies start to pick up. And now we're back to where we're just, where a lot of this is just engaging in anti-Semitism. So I'll kind of leave it on this one. My final thoughts being, be anti-Israeli. Fight against Israel. Be pro-Palestinian. Do not be pro-Hamas. Hamas is a terror group. They fit every legal definition of a terrorist organization. Don't conflate Jews and Israelis. They aren't the same. I know it can be often challenging with how hard Israel pushes this, but try to be a little bit more cautious, because the more wacky pro-Palestinian advocacy gets in its like misinformation spreading, the more likely it is that more situations will happen with crackdowns where we'll be having, Palestinian protesters be arrested and detained for incredibly dubious reasons. Yeah, what they're doing is wrong, but this is a game about power. We do not need to be rescinding so much power because of dumb thinking. We need to work harder on this stuff. I think I'll end this one here. My plan immediately after this is to begin my reaction watch through of the Sam Cedar Jubilee 1v20 debate. I've been really looking forward to doing this one, but haven't had the time to just sit down and do it. I expect that'll take multiple parts because I will be rambling aimlessly for a very long time on each of the different segments. This is probably going to kill my spirit, so pray for me. Expect it to be multiple parts. And once again, this has been another day in paradise.